So here is the, let's get enough of this to be an eyebrow on both brows. And we're going to put in, angry brows, they're down, unhappy. Happy brows are up and they're out. And then sad brows are even more over to the side. In a sense, so the brow itself migrated on the face. It's a very elastic, expressive face. But that's because I'm trying to focus anger into this sort of furrowed brow where you pinch everything toward the center. And then this is the invisible happy thing right there where the eyes are taller. And then this is the sad thing where they're down, but they have a kind of pleading look. And now we're finally ready to, in a sense, let's see. I need to fine tune this. Right now it's a little wobbly, so I'm trying to actually just define some of the shapes so they're not quite as random or soft, yeah. So just finishing position, pose, that's all. This is just me trying to get the poses a little more like they should be. Okay. Now we can fill it in and give them a forehead. This is the easiest part. If I were making wrinkles on the forehead or doing anything more complex, I would worry about it. But generally, this is a test, or at least a simpler attempt at trying to show the expressive possibilities of moving through different emotions, and that's the point of it. So I'm not going to put in the well, I could actually sculpt it in, but I don't think it will. I have a different idea in mind, which is I want to create the illusion that his head has been sliced open, and there's the illusion of a
like flesh?
No, a cavity, like a circle, a semicircle in 2D, an oval, a really pinched oval that makes you look like you're looking inside his empty head. And I'm going to cut it off the forehead. So really all I'm doing is making sure that the expression, I'm putting in this negative, what I call negative space, which is to reaffirm the position of the actual content in the way the brows are functioning. All going in there just to there's no point to it other than to not distort what I already tried to make. So I'm just trying to reverse sculpt back into this without changing the shapes of what I'm pressing against underneath it. Okay. All right. I need to work up just enough, build up enough of this that I can cut back into it. That's my goal. Also, do I want to leave the brows open on the side? I could, I might. Or complete the green yellow going down.
Once you contour the shape, can you just fill it in flat after that?
Explain.
Once the shape is cupped,
yes.
Can you just build on top of that?
Yes. Yeah, I'm gonna keep going. Yes, looking ahead very soon, once I've got enough to cut out now, I'm gonna just start, but it's a little higher than, it's not finished, it's like I gotta actually finish the cup shape. So that's gonna be the bottom of it. And I'll reuse some of the clay from what I cut away to finish the edges. Okay. So the question is, what is the color of what's inside his head? What do you think that should be?
Like a
blackish pink? No, what?
Yeah,
maroon.
Like a maroonish. Oh, but it's gonna be textured, right?
It could have a little texture. It's actually supposed to be, you know, if you're wood cutting it, you could draw a kind of, I don't know if this pen exists. Oh, well.
Oh, you need a pen?
Yeah, I need a pen. Oh, Barbara, let's get it back. So, it's very nice. Black liner, huh? Very nice. This is, no. Oh, I need to, yeah, I guess I need to do that. So, my idea is that this is what I mean by the woodcut effect. If that's the top of his head, you could put some stripes. There's going to be this is a spinal cord and sort of a lizard brain and then the upper brain. And so he's going to have his head flying off like that. And then put a hat on him. This is pretty crappy, but I think I can do a better hat once I sculpt it. So anyway, that's what I'm trying to achieve in this scoop right now. Yeah. Oh, great. That was great. So what's the definition color? Black? That's what I've been using, but like before, what's the actual lip edge? I don't know.
That kind of looks fleshy already.
This stuff?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it does. But it's kind of bright. I'm thinking a darker interior. This has no lines. That doesn't help. But you know, it's stuff. This is just, yeah. If it was, I'm not trying. You know, for example, on the brain itself. Looking ahead, now I'm jumping gears to that little future piece. You know, yeah, maybe that, or maybe this. I do want that to be pinkish and brighter. Like this is fairly close somewhere in, you know, this kind of, although this needs a lot of shape. It's nice to use a texture inside a texture sometimes, so I'll go ahead and use this. Just do I want black? That's all I'm asking myself. Or should it be, let's go ahead and give it you want a proof, right, to sort of get an impression of what all that work was, right? So that's pretty wicked. He'll be happy in the middle, and then this is going to be pretty sad. I'm like, oh no, my scary face didn't work on you. Yeah, let's keep the ears. And I'm going to go ahead and pinch him back in, because I really want him to be thin, if I can. Just, this can never be mean enough. It's too late. I can't even press that in to make it mean. All I can do is press this up. I can do the sides to sort of give him that the Dracula V at the top. Yeah, we'll just, the thing about black, it's super stupid, but it does say, hey, I'm a drawing. That's what it says. I'm a separator. This is where one part of the image begins and another stops. And then I can smear it. So the key here is that it's a sort of, it can be very light. It's not going to be much of it if I successfully get it thinner. It's not as obtrusive or heavy-handed. And so this is another line, but I'm putting that line in, trying to make it not as thin as possible on this new shape. Okay, and yeah, we're at the point where we need a down and dirty spinal column. I don't think his eyebrows should be the spinal column, but it would work. Although it's probably best to
Might look like a mohawk.
yeah, well, yeah, in and of itself, yes, you're right. It's very rude. It's not good for that. This stuff is too hard, so I'm going to reject it. This is soft. Now you're talking about the tiny little vein textures in there. This might be a way we get to that. But I'm going to pigs in a blanket to the brain at some point, and this is going to, if I do the spinal column, I'm going to make it highlighted with a little bone. Excuse me, bright white bone. And white becomes also a really skinny separator. And I do, you know, I try to use other colors that are tonal to the color to be fancier, but this is rude and fast, so here goes. So what I want to do with this is sort of chunk it out now, so it becomes spinal cord. It's fat. It's thing. It's its own fat thing. I'm going to make it a little skinnier because it is going to animate. And again, you can see I'm reboxing it. I cut it at an angle and just reboxes it. So, you know, this is going to be the bone, marrow, and separation of the what's going on inside there. I'm going to find some pink stuff to be filler, and then this will go into the I need the pink stuff to be dark filler, and I don't mind this. It's a little fat, but because I want to put it, this is potentially the inside of the head. Sometimes I just do different textures, so it's clearly not the same. I could do a crisscross or something that was more tweedy, because it really will. What I haven't used now is anything that's like that. But I don't think that fits. So I'm going to go traditional and again put this on a slant. Juicy. And keep doing this multiple times. So this is, of course, animation within it. But you can tell what I think I'm going to do is just use a little wedge on each side, and this will be sculpted ever so slightly into this sort of circle that I'm trying to make, this semicircle, right? And that is the inside of the head when it's opened, like a can. It won't make sense really well until some other parts are clearer. I need to, you know, I have an idea. I'm going to use this, but I'm going to highlight it. I'm going to highlight this with some white just to be super crazy clear. Because this is a can opener on the head, and I'm going to make outlines that sort of drop shadow each other. So the black is the bottom, the white's going to be the top on side of the black, but when it comes to here, the white's going to be the first, and then the black will... No. I could do both. I should do both the same way. Let me try that. because I'm trying to get an illusion of roundedness off of a sort of beveled edge, which is this cranium that's been cut. And because the colors are so, it's so, generalized, it's done in such a non-traditional way with so many blobby aspects. My goal is now to also do black here and then do white on top of that, and that could create the sense that it's, I don't know, folding over on the edges with the light and shadow, maybe? I don't know, when it goes back to the backside. Okay, again, this is just a black outline. I'm really trying to now create a curve, which didn't come out very well before. So, it's an oval shape that's sort of pinched at the edges, not this sort of wedge that I have, but I'm going to go ahead and, sorry. I have a ripped open little thumb with some, with the splinter that got taken out earlier, but my bandage didn't stay on. Okay. Here we are. And now lastly, I'm really just trying to get a curve, even though it's not great. But by that, I'm going to put a little white on it, and that'll cap the skull opening. And then we're going to do a little cerebellum and a top of a brain, and maybe, a top of the head after the brain is in, and maybe that'll be a time to break. I'm trying to make a totem pole, if that makes any sense. So there'll be a lot of different shapes on this guy, vertically, not horizontally. Okay, so that's, you'll see the illusion will sort of work when it's cut up. The way it'll work is that once you put it on the top part of the head, and this is repeated as a theme, it'll click. It'll make sense between the two. In and of itself alone, it's a little weak and a little too fast. All right, the brain. So we got some nice texture here. We got some good tissue kind of colors. Still a little bit of white there. Yeah. All right. The cerebellum is fairly liney. It's like it's not really a circle, but it's a pinched circle, semi-pinched circle, and I'm going to duplicate it. So I'm just building a super silly, this is not going to animate much. So by the way, this is, oddly, it will sit there like, it's just going to sit there. The brain will do most of the work, because I'll show you that texture. If I had more time, I think I would work on this one, but I'm just trying to get a lower brain, a reptile brain in there, because the frontal cortex is where all the action's at. Okay. And key to that would be a lot of texture inside a pig's blanket rolled out. So that's what I'm going to set up now.
For the brain?
Yep. It's a lot of rolling, a lot of little, and then I squiggle that stuff all around so it looks erratically brain-like, and then once you cut it, it kind of works. So this is a highlight in the dark. So the tissue, this is the fatty part and the other side of the brain. And so these are all going to get rolled into tiny little tubes.
So you do one side the dark clay, then the other side the light clay?
Yeah, they're both textures, light texture, dark texture. And if I were, you know, since I want to stay well, it won't matter once this is thrown into it. Yeah, it will. I'm going to go ahead and cut it, put it at an angle so this has got some animation in it. Even though it'll reduce a great deal, it's going to get so thinned out, it's almost going to be back to not animating once you roll this into little circles. Let's see. Again, I'm doing this by hand, where I'm just extruding by pinching it, pushing it down, and that just makes the clay get longer and longer. So two textures are now married, longer and longer. And then I'm gonna throw some black over it. Very thin, as thin as I can make it. And pressing this out so it's smeared is better than trying to be perfect with it. It's actually kind of fat in a lot of places, so what the hey. It's fast. Maybe it'll make sense. All right, I'm just extruding it to make it thinner. These are going to end up as their own. These are going to get processed a lot more. This is not anywhere close to the end game yet. Yeah. So.
Is that a pinch circle?
Yeah, it's a pinch circle. You got it. That's exactly right. And I'm doing. You can do it other ways. This is just trying to close the black around it, and what that means is that the highlight pink, the light pink will be like the center, and the darker pink will be crescent around that center. So here we go. Lots of fun. Just extruding. Again, Clay 101, if you can make a line and not break it as you're gently extruding, you go from one side to the next. You see how the fingers are just trying to find their way toward wherever the high bump is on the roll, on the snake. And you go in and try to support the thin areas. You don't try to keep going down those. You try to roll more clay back toward them and less clay to the top parts. I'm trying to get it really skinny because the brain has a lot of convoluted shapes. You know, it's all jumbled up on itself, and I'm going to make an attempt to have this jumbled up. But when it's cut sideways, the beautiful thing about loops is when they're cut sideways like this, they become long ovals, right? And if you look at the brain, it's sort of like a mishmash of long ovals all layered back on themselves. So hopefully that's going to be the net effect. The point of this is you don't want it so thin that you just get down to black. You want to keep the color that's buried inside there, not separating on itself. You want it to travel. It's traveling with the extrusion of the rolling with the black on the outside. Okay, and I know it's looking really skinny, but it's still pretty good. It needs to be a little thinner, because once you cut things on an angle, I'm going to put this all at a jumbled angle, everything gets fatter. So you got to make it smaller. Even though this might be fine if I was just designing a simple single slice of a brain, it's not good for the animated attempt at it until it's really skinny. All right, we're getting there. Okay, so you could just literally jumble this up in some way and come out with something that might approach brain material. I'm going to try to think myself through this so it's not completely random. Okay, so I'm curling it over on itself to create sort of the first layer of like a giant and I'm not being perfect. I'm letting things fall because it's just a brain, so it doesn't need. This is really brilliant. This is some of the nicest animation, by the way. If I were to open it up, but I'm trying to make sort of a cortex. So I'm going to try to get 2 layers out of this. All right, here we go. Magic moment. So when you open it, it has this sort of line Swiss cheese effect. So you're kind of there already. Look at that. You know, that's oddly, it's not perfect. I mean, I don't know whether the cheat works or not, and whether it's big enough. You know, if you have 2 sides of that, does that read? It does feel like I made it a little too small, like I needed some more of that texture to finish it. If this wasn't, you know, it may be that it wants more lines, so maybe I'm trying to get it to look like something that's folding on itself more, like it's got more structure. So I'm adding like a like some lines that feel like they're going to a certain destination. All right. Well, I'll probably have to do a whole nother side. Yeah, that's gonna get the point across at some point. If I do a whole nother side, in simple terms, what's next is to use that, where was the pinch stuff, this stuff? Where is that? Here? This is it, I think, yeah. So I'm not going to finish that brain, but I'm going to show you how I would finish the top of the head. Because I have to go through that whole process again to the other half. And I'm trying to be brief, even though this is taking forever. Yeah, it's sort of like that, and like, well, the other brain will be in there. The other half will be in there, and so it'll be simpler because I'm going to, I guess, make it just at the top of the.
And that's to not like close.
Yes, that's the intent there is that once you have the other, let's say this is the other side of the brain. Let's just pretend it's in there. Then this is here. Now it's way too big. I almost really need to reduce it by half. Here we go. Okay. You want just enough information to understand what the hell I'm looking at. So imagine that's there. Then we're going to add the idea will be to cut it in a way that it's got a curve. Put the black in, of course, you know, yeah, put the black in, put the white in, and finish the. This all have to be shrunk. What I'm doing now is fast dirty to illustrate where it's headed, because we have to wrap. This, in a sense, is the white bottom. It would mimic that. This whole thing is twice too big right now. This kind of open head that I'm finishing here. So I will go back and shrink that tomorrow or when I pick it up again. But I wanted to finish the thought on how the illusion, hopefully the illusion works.
So is it doing like the invert of the
Yeah,
bottom?
that's it. You got it. It's just doing the invert of the bottom. Only I'm doing it fat, blobby, fast, and stupid. And so it all has to be a little more controlled. And maybe it'll, once I do a little proof cut on it, it'll be a little less messed up. But only a little, because I haven't, you know, you're going to have to imagine that there's a second part of the brain there that's the invert of the first. I haven't done that. I haven't built it, but it's supposed to be like that. Where did the green go? I'm sorry, this color, it's on buried here. Yeah. There you go. And I'm really only doing this so you can kind of visualize once it's all in place. This would be the top of the head once it's all finished, and then there'd be a cap on top of that. So let's go ahead and just do a fast proof, just so a lot of this talking makes a little more sense visually. Okay. It's literally a mushroom cloud coming out of his head. Now, you have to, this just looks so messy. I'm so sorry, it's not super clear. You have to imagine that that's a separate, I have to organize that separately, and then the back, you know, the brain itself probably needs its own outline in some color. So this color makes sense as the inside of the head over here. Right now, they're too similar, and they merge, so nobody's going to know what the hell's going on. But if I could give the brain its own outline definition and make it a little clearer that, hey, that's what it is, by, you know, using those ropey lines, this is some of the most interesting animation you can do. If you roll a line, pigs in a blanket on anything, and you put that at any kind of an angle, and then you have it do any kind of swirl, it's just fun. It's so fun to watch. Yeah, but you get that. This sort of works, right? The interior is kind of making sense. I did a lot of this fast because I'm reaching the end of the tutorial, but here then you also throw, eventually I want to throw a baseball cap on him. So I imagine that'll be, you know, like that. A bill on the baseball cap, whatever. But this has got to be worked on. That is a mess. But you get the idea. I probably have to negative space some of this. This is all too thin to hold up. So what will be the background color that says, hey, I'm negative space? Is that, I don't know. If that were enough to just say, hey, I'm filling in, nothing to see here, folks. Or is that too...
Would you not do it around the whole?
Yeah, you could. I would never like to do the whole thing. If anything, if I did this, my plan would be is I would just do little highlight things. Like I would do it like that. So it's pulling the color down, but it isn't suffocating it completely. And you might put a little at the ears. And it's just a way of integrating whatever you think the background is. And maybe, you know, here too. This would pull it through, so you knew, okay, that's the outside of his. Of course, black is simpler, and everybody knows, okay, there's nothing there, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to work. I don't think that that's clear enough, and I don't think the brain is clear enough, but hopefully the quick fast and dirty throw together makes some sense as to where all that's going. And now, when you cut this up, you'll see the three emotions, and sadness, happiness, and anger. Classic human transitions. Still has a neck. You could do a lot of other things down here, and I'm just thinking of building a totem pole of surrealism at some point on this guy, just to keep the possibilities. So, any questions from that?
No, I don't think so.
Again, probably works up until that point. Total mess. But this is up here is a mirror image of what this is trying to do. Maybe it just needs to be darker. That's the problem. It probably just needs to be stupid black. That's it. Because the light isn't entering it. It's entering this, so this is stupid to be self-lit. So I'm going to make that just... That'll make the brain itself much clearer, and this extra little inside the head, I can make it smaller, and it'll work better, more graphic.
That's awesome. It makes sense.
Oh, good. If it's making sense, that's all I ask.
Yeah.
You know, it's a tough...
I want to try it now.
Okay. You know, this almost is clearer, kind of where it's headed, even though it's all messed up. But yeah, you want to try it? Excellent. You know, if you want, you can work with any of this, although I will continue tomorrow if you want to finish, you know, how to make the cap, or how to put a letter. You know, I put a letter on the cap, stuff like that. And then below him, you know, I would love to do like intestines, like he has a beating heart and some intestines, and then, you know, I don't know. Maybe the spine continues down here, and some pieces of it are hanging out. It would be good to animate it, because it's very hard to understand what we've talked about unless you see it ripping through. And a note on a note on animation is part of why it's skinny is it's going to be much easier to actually control the knife going all the way through. But the thicker this gets this way, the more it becomes a burden. What was that?
And you don't want it to have background clay.
I could do background clay. I just haven't. Often I add that because it solidifies everything. It makes it much more of a slice that doesn't fall apart. Mm. This one's gonna be horrible right there, right? There's no support. Whereas this is very solid. You know, this part of the block can be manhandled and it will not fall apart. So the reason for the background. So what would the background color be? We're doing magenta because it's god awful against yellow green, or are we doing, you know? I mean, certainly we haven't used anything like this or actually blue, but I don't know that helps it. I just don't know what that does. There's enough in the eyes that you leave them there. You don't want to do a lot more blue if that's where you're putting it. This is sort of, you know, I don't know, yeah. What are your thoughts?
For background?
Background color, yeah.
Could be like a brown. Cause I don't know.
Brown. Okay.
Might be hard to do something that's already in the face or in the brain.
Okay, so that's burnt red. Very strange. Maybe.
I don't know. Do you usually put texture in the background?
Yeah. I mean, on the acid trip, there's all kinds of texture. Mm-hmm. So the faces are held together, in fact, because the background is being added back, even though it's trying to work on a completely different set of axes that have nothing to do with what's the face. I'm trying to throw them in there as a background to keep it supported. If you look at it, it's got a lot of cavities, open areas, broken, it's not all a single block, it's a bunch of fins, you know, or like sections, open sections. And so when you cut it apart, you often have to support these things, like these flying buttresses or flying columns or arches that are animating off or going down. And I could talk about how that works, but suffice it to say, in that, you know, I was building backgrounds that were animating. So this would be a color animating left to right if I put it at a 45. Hey.
You want me to make you a little pizza? Or,
How do you feel? Are you hungry?
I've eaten, but I thought I'd make you one if you want.
Yes, I would.
You can
Great.
share it with Seth if you want.
Yeah.
It doesn't have cheese, it's just bread and vegetables.
Okay, thank you.
If you want some.
Alright.
I'm gonna make you another jar
Oh,
to
thank
take
you so
if
much.
you do you want it? I mean,
Yeah,
Yeah,
that'd
okay.
be great.
bring back the jars
Yeah,
so I have a place to keep. All right?
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you so
thank you
much.
so
Alright,
much.
it'll be in the fridge.
We're about wrapped, so.
Oh, okay.
If you put a background in, let's say the background color was, this was more worked than just a solid color. If it's, I put it at angles like this often, which is, so let's say it's animating, I'm trying to cut it so it goes, let's cut this side too. All right, cut it a little more. Okay, still kind of wrong. All right, so let's imagine that I actually laid it in and it was sturdy. It wasn't just flying like a piece of clay off to the side. When this is cut, it's going to be both descending and going outward. So the color itself is flying away from the face, descending, and in a sense, by the time you're at the end of it, all you're seeing is this, fully,
But there would be like more.
Yes. Yes, there would be more. You would have to sculpt all kinds of joining and solidifying pieces, because a flying shape without real architectural sturdiness somehow, and I would do it downward for gravity. I'm assuming that I would be, once you build it up like a foot or two this way, gravity's working against you, and at some point you have to put it on its bottom. You have to start working lengthwise, a completely different way. And at that point, you can add these things. Once it's going lengthwise, this is easier to add. But you're always working with gravity, so you make the bottom heavier and more fixed and finished. Because when this peters out, once you get to this area, the next few frames are going to be this, and then this, and then this. Click, click, click. And so what you've done is you've created a flying arch or buttress, like a medieval cathedral. And it, at this angle, it's going toward where gravity would be if you flipped this up 90 degrees and it was headed this way. And that way it doesn't fall apart. It's actually supporting the block from the back. And so it kisses the block at the front, but it always supports and goes down, heavily holding gravity, and it's actually structural. It's a beam that's actually structurally holding the thing together. And so in Acid Trip, I'm putting a lot of these together like this, but I'm keeping the gaps. I'm trying to intentionally not fill in everything, because that allows the animation to happen. It is turned 90 degrees, so it's going straight. That's this way. So, like, if we were to do this, maybe that makes more sense. See, you have to imagine that that this starts here, and I would put a lot of clay to finish it down here. And so once I've gone through this and it's separated from the actual block that it's supporting, it's on its own. It's like this on its own. But it's got enough base support, gravity-held support, that it's actually holding up on its own. And so I'm slicing through, and these parts are just falling away like little tendrils spraying outward. But generally, that's how you have to build the supporting background material. So, if you build it opaque, if you fully pack it, that doesn't matter. It's going to be supported in all ways. But again, I think the open cavities, the open tunnels, the caves, trying to make it light. It's absurd because it's such heavy stuff, but attempting to open it up makes the sculpturality just a lot more vital to me, because the lighting effects and you put a strobe rotating around it, and it changes, the lighting effects change in a really dramatic way, because it can feel all these other things that are the background, but they're sculpture too. they stop being sculpture when they're all packed in. Does that make sense? The more you can see the sides of him and these other shapes, the more it's sculpture. And the more it's packed in, the more it's a flat 2D. That's giving the illusion of, it's giving you motion. But I think it's the side plus front that's the conundrum. The fact you can see the side and the front at the same time is what makes it, the continuity plus the surface moment that's being revealed in that continuity the more you can see the side, the more interesting the front becomes to me, verse versa, because they play off each other. Probably a lot more to talk about there if we pick it up on the brain. And the design is fast and dirty and not complete, but at least this makes some sense down there as far as an open thing. I think going black on the upper part is going to help a lot. And I may go back and redesign the brain material because that was a really fast demo of the kind of thing. But I'll tell you, the animation will gestalt it. If you saw that animating, you go, that's a brain. Even though right now I wouldn't say that it strongly, except for its position, strongly reads that way.
Is that how you did that?
Yes, that's all tubes. They're all tubes laid at a 45 angle. In this case, in Acid Trip, yeah, if you want to. That spinal column is animating just like I did here. That's the sort of cerebellum in the middle, and then the two reptile brains at the bottom. And then those are, in a sense, tubes that are laid at an angle. And so they give that really interesting, they're sort of like really long, stretched out oval shapes on a curve. I think that I could have done a better brain design than this, but I was trying to create was a transition that was a brain. Because this, remember, goes to his two eyeballs. This is like a concentric thing where his eyeballs are about to appear out of that. Or that just came out of his eyeballs, maybe. I can't remember. I think this is after the eyeballs, right? But they're lined up with his eyeballs, and so since he's just disappeared as a face, and those concentric two pieces, they're more of a whirlpool brain rather than actual literal, well-designed, folded, the typical folded thing. I need to work on, I probably need to think that through for this guy more. That's just the same idea, only built really large, yeah. And then he's got hair on the outside from his hair being sliced apart.
Are you guys really hungry?
Yeah. I think we're done.
Do you want?
Is Isa hungry?
They're only about this size.
Do you want a pizza?
Do you want an extra one for you, one for David? Because I know he can eat the whole thing.
Sure.
Yeah,
that'd be great.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
You don't mind, Colum?
No.
Thank you. All right.
Cool.
Good day.